Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Q1FY22 earnings call for Coal India Limited. I would like to thank the management of Coal India for providing us with the opportunity to host them for this call. From the management, we have the CMD Shri Pramod Agrawal, Director Marketing Shri Tiwari, and Director Finance Shri Samiran Datta, and Company Secretary Mr. Vishwanathan. Without much ado, I hand over the floor to Shri Pramodji for his opening remarks, following which we will open the session for the Q&A. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Vishal. It's a pleasure. Good evening, friends. It's a pleasure to interact with you people again. So our first quarter results are out. Our dispatches, our production, despite all the constraints of COVID, have been good. This was particularly difficult quarter for Coal India because in all these 3 months, COVID affected our every stage of operation. Despite that, our production was almost the same as it was last year, and dispatches were substantially higher compared to last year, and it was even higher than 1920. Though we were expecting some better results in the sense that I was expecting that profitability will be somewhere near 3,600, 700, but because of some provisioning for gratuity, etc. Provisioning for medical. Post-retirement by medical benefit, which we had not provided for a few years. So for that, 600 crore rupees were to be provided, and because of that, our profitability got reduced slightly. But from this quarter onwards, I hope that our performance will be even better. So without going in much of detail, we have placed everything on our website. Our presentation is there on the website. So it will be better for me to answer your questions rather than giving a longer opening remark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on their touchtone phone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Pinakin from JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So my first question is on e-auction realized e-auction prices. Can you give us a sense where are e-auction prices at this point of time in August versus the June quarter average?
June quarter average was slightly less. It was because whatever we were there are two things. One is dispatch thing and another is booking thing. If we see the June quarter dispatch figure, that was slightly less just because whatever we dispatched in June quarter was mainly what was booked in December or the third quarter and fourth quarter of last year. And the figure was something like 1,569 rupees per ton. So the average realization was about 10% more than the notified price. But in August, etc., now we are getting 30% over our notified price, and these figures will now get reflected when these dispatches take place.
So, sir, when you say 30% over notified price, would it mean an e-auction price of roughly 1,800 rupees a ton?
I think so, yes.
Understood. And so my second question is on the wage expense bill. How should we look at the quarterly run rate for the remainder of the year versus what it is right now?
In this quarter, the wage bill, etc., has increased by 8%, and as I mentioned in my opening remarks, this was mainly because 600 crore rupees increase was there because of some provisioning of CPRSM, means medical facilities, post-retirement medical facilities for the non-executives. So if we don't do, this was one-off, and so I don't expect any provisioning. So my wage bill should remain practically in the same range as it was last year, or maybe 1 or 2% increase.
Understood. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Meera Midha from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. I have just two questions, sir. What is the current state of receivables?
Okay, and the other question?
So the second question is on the cash flow from operations and Kpex. What is the Kpex for this quarter, and what do we anticipate for the year ahead?
Okay. The first question, the receivables at the end of the last year was 19,600 crore rupees, which reduced to 18,500 crore rupees by the end of June quarter. But by the end of July month, it has come down to 17,100 crore rupees. That is a net receivable. So it has come down by about 2,500 crore rupees in this last 4 months, and we think that we will try to reduce it further in coming months. And we are putting constant pressure on our buyers. Then Kpex this year, we have got target of about 17,000 crore rupees. That includes the Kpex in HURL and the TFL, which is Talcher Fertilizer Limited and Hindustan Urvarak Rasayan Limited. And in that, some part will be our contribution as equity, and another part, 60% of that means if we invest about 1 rupee, then 2 rupees will come from the banks, and that will be included in this Kpex. So that is the Kpex we are planning.
And sir, what about Kpex for the coal companies? What are the numbers over there?
So the 17,000 includes everything. So I think about this HURL and TFL will amount to about 3,000. I can't give you a direct figure, but it will be in the range of 3,000 crore rupees. So rest of the 13,000-14,000 crore rupees should come from coal companies. But that 13,000-14,000 crore rupees also includes about 1,500 crore rupees to be spent on the rail lines that are being constructed with the help by joint venture companies.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. I'm done.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Noel from Ashika Group. Please go ahead.
Hello. Yes, sir. I just have one question relating to coal prices. So far, I think you have already mentioned that the auction premiums for August have been quite firm. So the thing is that, but globally speaking, still coal prices have remained quite elevated. I mean, even for that matter.
Get your question.
Hello.
Yeah, please repeat your question.
Sorry. Yes. So the auction premiums, I mean, as you have mentioned, have come back a little bit in August. But for certain segments, even for that matter, like coking coal, we are still lagging the international benchmarks. So is this for any particular reason, or will it just normalize as well?
The question is not clear. If I have understood correctly, Director of Finance is speaking. Yeah, please. Yeah.
If I have understood correctly, you are asking whether this auction price realization betterment is due to the international benchmarking or due to normalization of the domestic market.
No, as in, can it improve further? That's what I was trying.
Can it improve further?
That is one question. I think you are asking about the premiums which has been fetched during this quarter, that is April, May, June.
Yes, this quarter as well as the coming quarter.
Yeah, this quarter, as I mentioned, it was nearly 30% average. And in coming quarter, it will be in the second quarter, it will be, I think it will be in the same range, but in third and fourth quarter, if everything remains normal, it will further increase.
Okay. Yeah, that is all I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Indrajit from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. If I remember correctly, in the last call, you mentioned about a chance of price increase in the SSA segment. So where are we on that, and what is the kind of increment that we can look for in the next few months?
We are working on that, and because of the first 3 months we lost in the COVID, so we could not at that time of pandemic think of increasing the price, but now we are working aggressively on that, and since I can't say you what will the figure because we have not decided and it should not be disclosed either, but you will see some decisions being taken. And we will try to maintain the EBITDA at roughly in the range of 13%.
Sorry, EBITDA at the range of?
28 to 30% also.
Okay, that's helpful. And secondly, sir, this quarter onwards, we'll have to start making the provision for the wage for revision. So what is the kind of increment we will be factoring in just for accounting purpose? I know actual numbers could be different, but when you make provisions, what is the kind of hike will you be building?
We have not seriously thought about it, but it will not be anywhere near what it was given last time. So provisioning will be very less compared to. So it will be very less. Let's see, but I think let's wait for a few days for us to decide on this thing.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Falguni Datta from Jet Age Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. I just wanted to know what is the production and sales guidance for this year?
See, the target we have kept at 670 and 740. But to my mind, if we achieve some production of 630 to 640 and dispatch of about 700 types, that will be the more practical thing.
Okay. And sir, how should we look at that the stripping adjustment line item in the PL account for this year?
I think there will not be any withdrawal or nor any provisioning. So stripping ratio we will try to maintain, which is required as per the design, so that it doesn't affect the production and quality in coming years.
So will we have stripping activity adjustment, that line, will we have a positive figure, or how, if you can give some sense on that?
There will be hardly any provisioning or any withdrawal from that.
Okay. And sir, any view on the contractual expense? How should that be looked at for this year?
It will very much depend on what is the price of the diesel. In this quarter, we lost about 700 crore rupees because diesel price increased by about 25%. It was in the range of 66, 67 rupees, and now it is in the range of 89. So there has been substantial increase in the diesel price. So if this price remains constant, then whatever we have done in the last quarter will be maintained. But if diesel price increases further, which is, to my mind, seems completely unlikely, but nobody can comment on that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all from my side.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, we would like to remind participants that you may press star and one to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Rahul Modi from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity, and congratulations on good volumes. Sir, a couple of questions. Just wanted to check with you on how the demand situation has been overall for both coking and non-coking. Obviously, we've seen a good set of volume numbers in Q1. How's the volume looking forward in the next few months as per your estimates in terms of offtake? And when do you look at stepping up the pedal in production? Because a couple of months back we had a situation where we had to also slow down production because of high inventory. So how's that now panning out, sir, overall?
Thank you, Rahul. But then demand is very good today. Actually, in the first 4 months, we have reduced our inventory by 45 million tons, and our dispatches to this date is about 46 million tons more than last year. And it is much higher than the 1920 figure as well. So the demand is very huge, and it is likely to continue unless something related to COVID happens. My demand will likely to continue, and we have created space for another 50 million tons. So the production reduction that we resorted to last year, I don't think that there will be any situation like that in coming months. This year it is unlikely to come. We will have to gear up our production and increase it as much as possible, because we have already created a space for about 50 million tons. And as you know, in August, remaining days of August and few days of September, the stock is likely to reduce further. So there is a huge demand in the market. Evacuation systems are quite geared up, and so it is for us how much we produce.
So also, in terms of, we've seen a very strong elasticity, means, typically when your e-auction volumes went up to 30 million tons, obviously there was a correction. So is it more to do with a time lag of when the quantity was booked and dispatched, and you see better months coming ahead on the e-auction side? As you mentioned, there's a 30% premium. You see this continuing or improve going forward?
In August and September, the premium may not increase, but after this quarter, third and fourth quarter, premium is likely to increase because international prices are firmed up. So the import, unless it is very essential, people will like to purchase from us. Now, coming to the other part of your question, see, whatever we booked in the first quarter, 3 months, mostly that coal, which was booked, in first quarter, whatever dispatch has taken place is basically the coal that was booked in the last quarter of last year and the third quarter of the last year. Because during the COVID situation, we extended the time period by about 3 months till 30th, almost 20th of July. So almost till 20th of July. So that affected, because of that, the rate in the last 2 quarters was not as good as it was in the first quarter. So this will get reflected from now onwards. I think from September month onwards, whatever listing takes place, it will be because of the new booking. So we should see better price realization.
Right, sir. That's helpful. So secondly, sir, now, how do we stand in terms of, is ministry supportive of a price hike? Because, in terms of a lot of discounts to be offered has been already given by us. For example, the performance incentive has been let go of, which we used to get, for supplying higher than the ACQ. We've also, we had reduced the base price of auction. So now that, your end user industries are increasing their prices, how is ministry okay with that, basically for allowing you to take a hike, because that becomes an important thing. What is your view?
See, coming to the base price of auction, now ministry, now it has been restored in most of the cases, and we are providing some premium right at the beginning. Best price, we are adding some premium at the best price only, and there is no opposition from any quarter. Whatever opposition is there, we are tackling that. Coming to the price rise, we are in discussion with all the stakeholders, and in general, everybody is on board because our costs have increased everywhere, so there is no reason that CIL should not increase the price.
Sure, sir. So now, if you could throw some light on, the solar manufacturing that we were looking at. So anything that we firmed up yet on that, and the 3 gigawatt of solar utility installations that you were talking about, sir, how are things progressing on that side?
We have got the order for 100 megawatt in Gujarat, and in our own area, we are targeting to install about 250 megawatt, out of which about 100 megawatt has been tendered out. So we are working actively on that, and we will be, in the coming months, we will see Coal India participating in whatever opportunity comes. We are quite sure that by 23-24, we should install about 3,000 megawatt of solar power.
Right, sir. And manufacturing?
Solar for manufacturing, nothing has been firmed up. We are working on that. PLI scheme of the government has been launched. But there, as I've told many times, that we'll go only if we get a very strong partner along with us. Otherwise, it will be difficult for Coal India to venture into it.
Okay, sir. And lastly, from my side, it's a very, very cliched question we all always keep on asking you. So thoughts on your dividend policy going forward. How do you see, with the a balancing act between the Kpex and the payouts, please?
See, if the things as they are moving, if they goes as such, then we will have adequate cash for both dividend and for the Kpex. There will be no shortage of cash with us. We have got 17,000 crore in market, which we are realizing very fast. We have got deposits, and plus the profitability will rise in coming quarters, so that the liquid cash will be generated. But for dividend policy, since new Director of Finance has joined, I request him to comment because I have been replying this so many times.
Yes, sir.
Sir, just a request you to stay connected. It seems the line for the management has got disconnected. I'll just reconnect them. We have the line for the management reconnected. Sir, you may please go ahead.
Okay. Rahul, the second part of question I have requested Director of Finance to answer.
Yes.
Sure.
So I think sir has already stated that going by the current status of our production of cake and the realizability that we are having, so we are expecting much better profit stability than the previous year and going back to that normal position of what used to be for Coal India of about 28 to 30% of EBITDA margin. And having said that, and because the cash position looks also good, so there is no reason why we should not be able to actually maintain a good dividend rate that we have in the past also maintained and better than what we have in the last financial year.
Okay, so thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aniket Mittal from Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. So my first question was on this, the production decrease that we've seen. I think, like you mentioned, it's largely because of the high levels of inventory that we had. Just wanted to understand from an FY21 end perspective, what sort of inventory levels would you be targeting, or what sort of inventory levels would you be comfortable with?
The comfortable number for inventory should be about 70-75 million tons, anything between 70 to 80 million tons. But in case the lifting is not proper, we can go up to 100 million tons. But beyond that, it will not be good to store. See, this year also, if you see, in first 4 months, we have reduced the inventory by 45 million tons. That too, in the situation when in April, May, June, COVID situation was prevailing and the demand situation in the country was slightly below normal. So in case the demand situation remains normal type, then even 100 million ton is something which I consider comfortable. Because in these 3 months, with all the efforts, the dispatches do not go beyond 2 million tons. And during the rainy season again, the movement of the coal gets affected. So actually it is advantageous to have slightly better.
Okay, sure. So, from an, let's say, FY22 end perspective, the inventory levels that you'll be targeting would be roughly 70 to 80 million tons.
That's right.
Okay. And our current inventory, I think at the end of July, would be 54 million tons at our mines, right? So going forward, we will...
Please continue, sorry.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think at the end of July, the inventory level at our mines would be close to around 54-55 million tons. So going forward, I think we would look to increase the production versus dispatches. And how easily can we do that? I mean,
I couldn't get your call. How?
I was saying at current inventory levels, I think at the end of July would be close to 54-55 million tons. So if at the end of the year we want to reach a number of 70 to 80, we're essentially talking of the production outpacing the dispatches, right? Which means that the production at our mines will have to increase going forward, at least for the next few months.
That happened because in the last quarter we produced almost 35% of our total production, if I'm not wrong. And in March alone, we produced about 12 to 13% of our production. So that will not be
sure. That will happen then in March. All right. And just to get a sense, sorry to harp on this, but if I were to look at Coal India as a whole, what would you say would be the annual production that you can reach for all your mines without incurring any further Kpex?
Without incurring any Kpex, maybe this year we can achieve whatever we are desiring to, but next year it will not be possible to sustain that because one of the major components of Kpex is acquiring land and rehabilitation, doing rehabilitation work. And third thing that we are looking at are evacuation systems. Unless we invest properly in these three or four items, maintaining this production will be very difficult. And it will start going down very fast.
Okay, so I think the target was 630 to 670. So if I look Coal India as a whole, we can easily do 630 to 670 million tons. Beyond that is where we would face challenges, where we require to acquire land, and that's why we're doing the incremental Kpex.
Maintaining this thing will require acquiring.
Okay. Sure.
Whatever land we are exposed, it is not something that we have acquired complete piece of the land. We acquire land every year. Like last year, we acquired something like about 3,000 hectares of land at the cost of about 3,000 crores. So that type of we have to keep on acquiring the land.
Got that. That's understood. And just on the OBR front as well, I think what's happened over the past 1 year is because inventory levels were high, we were sort of focusing more on the OBR front rather than the production of the mine. So how do you see that going forward? Any sort of OBR production numbers that you have in mind for FY22 or OBR removal numbers rather?
OBR removal partly was because of the fact that you mentioned, but partly was also because of the fact that in the last 3-4 years till 1920, despite increase in production of the coal, OBR number have remained in the same range of 1130, 1140. And that has affected the mine geometrically tremendously. If we want that quality of the coal should improve and we want that the production should be smooth, then OB removal at the rate of about 2.5 times of the tonnage is essential. So if suppose we are doing production of 600 million tons, so roughly in the range of 1,400 to 1,500 million cubic meter of OBR removal is essential to maintain the mine geometry. So I think in this year also we will target for something like 1,550 or 1,500 million cubic meter of OBR removal.
Sure, that is helpful. And just one question, on the e-auction front going forward, once our inventory levels, I think, keep on declining, I think the realization on the e-auction will also go up. So how do you look at the overall mix? I mean, what sort of, in terms of your overall dispatches, what would the ideal percentage be in terms of the e-auction volumes that you're looking from a full year perspective? Because Q1 was a pretty good number in terms of, I think, 20% of our dispatches were e-auction. Would we be able to maintain that if realization start going up?
Maintain that. Actually, 53 million ton of coal stock is not a low stock. This must be one of the highest stock on 15th of August, as on this date, in any of the last year. So there will be no shortage of coal at the mine level. And from October onward, the accretion starts happening in the stock. So there will be no shortage of, because what I mean to say that e-auction volume will not get affected because of shortage of the coal. So if there is a demand, we will try to maintain this 20-25% level.
Very good. And just one follow-up on that. Could you tell me what are the overall e-auction levels or e-auction volumes that is booked, and out of that, how many have we dispatched?
I couldn't get your question.
I was asking how much volumes of e-auction coal have we booked or contracted, and how much of that have we dispatched?
It is not that the one-to-one relationship. The auction that taken place in the last quarter basically got dispatched this year, in the first quarter. So the auction total was about 23 million ton, and the dispatch was 30 million ton. So but this 23 million ton has got nothing to do with this 20 million ton. Only a part of this 23 million ton would have got dispatched in this 30 million ton. Most of it was what was the auction in the last year. We did about 125 million ton last year, and I'm pretty sure that we will exceed that number this year.
Understood. Great. Thank you, sir, and wish you all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Indrajit from CLSA. Please go ahead.
Sir, hi. Sorry, I just missed your production and sales guidance numbers for the year. If you can repeat that.
I was saying that dispatch should be in the range of 710, 720, then somewhere near more than 700. And the production figure, if it is more than 640, 650, I would be happy. It should be in the range of 640 type.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kamlesh Bagmar from Prabhudas Lilladher. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, sir. So one question on the part of e-auction. So I'm just considering this spot e-auction.
Your voice is not clear. Can you bring your mobile closer to your mouth?
Hello?
Yeah, that's clear now.
Yeah. So I was asking on the part of e-auction, sir, if I see July month, your e-auction realization on the basis of numbers which were reported on the Ministry of Coal, it was roughly around 2100 odd rupees. And if I compare it with, like, say, Jan 2020, it was similar, like, say, 2200 rupees with the same notified price of roughly around 1500 odd rupees. And if we see the global coal prices, it has almost more than doubled for 2.5x. But our realizations in the spot e-auctions continues to remain the same. And even if we see the quantity at, like, say, in July, we have offered hardly around 5 odd million ton. And we were able to get interest for only around 50% of quantity. So what is the reason behind that, sir? When there is so much of buoyancy in the global coal prices, even see petcoke prices, they are almost at, like, say, all-time high level. But we are not able to realize that in the spot auction. I'm not comparing with other options, like, say, power and all that, because there will always be weak realizations or soft realizations in those segments. But particularly on the spot auction, like, say, it continues to remain very tepid, even, like, say, after sharp increase in the global prices.
I will request Director Marketing is sitting with me to reply on this.
A very good evening to the querist. Basically, you understand that a spot market is for short-term lifting. But as Chairman sir have already told you, that the lifting which was being taken was from the booking of the previous years, previous quarters. So that is why the coal which was being held till the 20th of July, that was getting lifted, and the interest for fresh booking was not there because the coal was there in the hands of the traders. Now, once this extension time is being taken up, you will find that this is shoot to a level of around 75 or 80% of premium. Have I made my point? The earlier book quantity was still there in the market, so there was a less interest in booking the fresh quantity. But once
I was only talking about the July month.
Yeah, it is there. July up to 20th of July, there was a extension of date. So once this coal which was booked earlier goes away, you will find the interest rising much beyond what you have seen right now. But let me tell you, spot auction, if I see on an average thing for April to July, it is 34%. And in a similar pattern, when we offer coal for special spot auction for importers, the premium is 54%. So on average, what Chairman Sahab had said, it is hovering around 24%. But if I take the sector which is almost in the same pattern of spot auction for importers, the premium is 54%. So what I am trying to tell you is, if this coal has been lifted for the last quarter, now you will see from next month onwards, the spot auction premiums will be much, much higher than what you are seeing right now for July or even for the average of April to July.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. And second question on the employee cost. So I was not able to hear that properly. So how much was the one time in this quarter in employee cost, sir?
There was increase of... Okay, Director of Finance wants to answer this.
You see, in this quarter, you have seen the employee benefit cost of total 10,390 crores. Now, we have already said that within that is embedded that 600 crore one of actuarial valuation non-cash charge, that provision we have made. So even if you knock that off, it comes down to something below 10,000, something around 9,500-ish or 800-ish, which you had seen even in the 1 year back period. So if you multiply it by 4, that gives something around 37,000 crore rupees, which is more or less on the same line as was in the previous year. As you know, that almost 15,000 people goes off, which gives us, as per the present rate of salary structure, almost 1,400 to 1,500 crore rupees of savings. So after recovering back whatever the increments are there for 3% annual increment and the DA, that more or less keeps the salary and wages intact with the previous year. Now this year also we are witnessing that the DA has been quite less. I mean the inflationary pressures and the reflection through the DNS allowance has also been less. So we don't expect that it should go on an overall basis beyond what you had seen in the last financial year.
So, but would there be any impact because of the increase in the DA which has been done by the Government of India for the central PSU employees?
Yeah, for officers there have been increase in DA by about 5%. But you know that in Coal India there are 250,000 employees. Out of that, only 17,000 or 18,000 are officers, and the rest of 230,000 are workers. So the impact that it will make will be not very significant. It will be there, but it will not be even.
And their DA was not frozen. That was continued.
And the DA of non-executive was not frozen. It continued. So because of this, there is unlikely of any much of a great impact.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, we would like to remind participants that you may press star and one to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Pulkit Patni from Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Sir, thanks for taking my question. Just harping on the previous question and just so that I understand this correctly. So Samiran sir explained that employee cost is going to remain in the same range as last year, given the adjustments, the DA adjustment. But if one factors in the provision for wage revision, then obviously this number is going to be higher, right? Is that understanding correct?
That's right. That's right. Well, without wage revision, it will be in the same range. What Samiran said that it was last year in the first quarter, it was 9,600. This year, in this quarter, it is about 10,400. So out of that increase, 600 was a provision thing, which was one-off. So if that is knocked off, then it is almost in the same range, 9,600 to 9,700. And it's likely to continue in the coming months. So if there is a provision, there will be provision for that. That provision will be extra.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rakesh Vyas from HDFC Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. I hope everyone is safe. I have two clarifications and two questions, sir. First one, on the employee cost itself. So when we are guiding for a flat kind of number on YOY basis without impact of wage hike, I believe even in last year, in fourth quarter, we had made certain provisions for actuarials, etc. So are we accounting for those numbers as well, or we are negating the two, the provision made in this quarter versus fourth quarter?
See, our numbers should be 9,700 on average per quarter. Last year, we made a provision of about 1,000 crore rupees in the last quarter for that leave encashment.
Yeah.
This year, suddenly this has come up about 600 crore rupees for post-retirement. So if you knock off those things, then it will be almost same. Whatever one-off provisionings are made, if those are removed, it will be almost same.
Got it, sir. That helps clarification. The second question is on the spot e-auction. Just want to clarify something that Director Marketing was highlighting. So essentially, July also saw a muted response because there was a lot of offtake available with the already booked quantity with the players, which was taken off. And what we are essentially highlighting is that since then, since 20th July, because that window is closed, the incremental spot auctions is seeing a much higher premium of 70% odd. Is that a correct understanding? Is that what I heard?
To stick to 70%, what he meant to say that till 20th July we had given time extension to all the traders just because the COVID situation was prevailing till June. So we get them 15-20 days extra. But after July, there is no extension. So whatever quantity was left with them is over. So now onwards, coming forward, we must see a much higher premium on this.
Okay, got it. And two questions that I have, sir, after this clarification. One is on the, you are talking about almost 640 million ton of production kind of number and 700 of offtake, which essentially means that you will probably be having a reasonable, moderate inventory at the end of the year. So given that demand remains strong, how prepared are we for a much higher production number and offtake number in FY23? Or are there some bottlenecks which we still need to address to achieve those?
In FY23, the constraints that I personally feel is mainly related to evacuation. About production, we can say that we have created capacity which is much higher than this. Now we have contracted about 130% of our requirement, so that even if one or two contractors fails here, and we have created some flexibility in our contract system also. So if one or two contractors fails here and there, it should not affect our production numbers. Evacuation is definitely one of the big challenge, but we are following it up very seriously. As you know that almost all the FMC projects are under construction. Some of them will come in next financial year. So that will help us in evacuation. Many of the lines small lines, siding, etc., that were under construction, we are following them up. So some of them will get constructed, but that will also help in increasing some dispatches. One major improvement that is likely to take place is completion of Angul Balram line completed. Then about 20-25 rakes, means about one per day, that is about 1 lakh dispatch from MCL will become possible. Similarly, from Sardega, they are widening the platform and they are creating. Sardega-Jharsuguda line has started construction. Construction has started in that line. So we have taken up some small patches work immediately, which are very critical for improving the dispatches. And with that also another 40,000-50,000 ton will come per day. So, we have started construction on Tori-Shivpuri line. So some of these patches may come and that will help us in improving the dispatches. So there may be some problem here and there, but then there will be no such constraint that we will be not in a position to meet the demand.
Got it, sir. And my last question was related to this part only. Of the first mile connectivity projects, if you can just also highlight as to almost 400 million ton kind of number that you are targeting in phase 1. How is the commissioning of these likely, given that we are already talking about Kpex on those numbers in 22 and probably 23 as well? So what proportion will come in which year, if you can just highlight that as well?
They will come in FY23.
23. Okay.
And will come in this year also. About 4-5 will come this year. But most of them will come in FY23. March 23, most of them should be there. But 3 or 4 may get delayed, and one doesn't know how the COVID situation will come. If that happens, then everything is stopped.
Got it, sir. I'll get back in queue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ajay Jain, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, sir. Sir, my query is, can you throw some light on the Jharkhand demand which we were having, and what is the progress in this? If you could quantify it, because in the last meeting you had informed that they're going to take the rate based on present circle rate of the land. Could you just quantify a little on the whole liability which we are having on this?
See, Mr. Ajay Jain, there is a problem with Jharkhand land reform. The land we have acquired, but many of that land has not been given possession to. They have not got the possession. Secondly, a lot of land for which we have already paid to individuals, but that is in the name of Jharkhand government, in some old record, and whatever payment we have made is after the verification done by the land record authority, that is the district level officer. So there is no confusion on that. We have paid last year 600 crore rupees, 650 crore rupees to Jharkhand government as an advance to be adjusted against the land they are going to get. A lot of land that they have provided, but a lot of land they have yet to get for this. So whatever figure that is coming, I don't think there are any realistic or anything going to happen. They are asking for 30,000 crore rupees, sometimes 25,000 crore rupees, sometimes 50,000. But then all those figures are not based on any concrete record. They are based on many assumptions. So if they make that much of land available to us, perhaps our mining strength will go. It will be a phenomenal growth in our production. So there is no linkage between reality and
fair enough, sir. I understood that. But coming to my next, could we quantify from the company's point of view what you feel could be the liability which we look ahead? Somewhere we had worked out a 2,500 crores figure, which you said, which you had mentioned that also is not there in your mind. But because these figures are so huge, it can have a very financial difficulty as regard the liquidity and the profitability going ahead if it comes true. So could you quantify to specify, okay, this is the liability which we feel may come up? I mean,
I don't think any liability is going to come up. Whatever I have paid for, land, 200 acres of the land, for which we have given them 600 crore rupees advance. There may be liability of another 200-300 crore rupees or something like that, not more than that. But the record needs to be matched. Beyond that, there is nothing in this. And if they start giving me 56,000 hectares of land, perhaps that much land will be not required by us.
Oh, wonderful, sir. This is very comforting because the figures which are being going around can really make a lot of difference. Thank you. I think that. Secondly, sir, there's so much of rise in international prices. This e-auction and the spot prices gives us better revenue to the company. Do we have a cap on this that we can only do a particular amount of production can go into e-auction apart from the ones which you have, a tie-up agreement?
About 20% of the total production, but that constraint is only if there is no demand from regular customers. As such, achieving 20% itself has not been possible in many years. Now we have geared up, and so the offering is not a constraint. Demand should be there, and if you offer too much of the quantity, then there will be no premium on it. So availability of the coal, making a balance between the demand and supply, all these things are there.
So, just a corollary to it. Basically, right now the international prices are going, lifetime high, and there's a difference between a year back and today. It has increased more than 150%. Why is this not reflecting in our prices? Whenever we see international prices, we go for a good sleep because we think even Coal India would have a good price too. But when we go back, it does not reflect so in our pricing. Is there any particular reason behind it? Like you explained about the spot prices, that 20% is what we can sell, and probably we will reach that figure. But apart from that, the FSAs, and are we not able to negotiate with them? Like normally, if you see other commodities, they monthly take out a price list. Okay, this is the price which we'll give from this particular day onwards, iron ore and other commodities. Why is not that happening in coal, sir?
In coal, about 80% of prices is in notified price. Notified price can increase, but then if it increases tremendously, then it will affect the price of the energy, price of the power in the country. So that much of freedom we don't have, but in practice that we can match it with the because if we increase that price, perhaps your electricity price will become almost 150 times what we 150% increase in the year.
Okay.
And then the whole country is problem. So that type of thing cannot happen with essential commodities. And coal being an essential commodity, I don't think that is a practical thing, and nor it is a desirable thing. But we completely understand that this is the high time when the price should increase, taking into account the fact that for last 3.5 years we have not increased the price and our costs are escalated, although we have tried to reduce it to the extent possible. But I completely agree with you. But whatever we offer on this spot price in this e-auction, I think in coming months you will see much higher realization.
Right. Thank you so much, and really compliment you on the way you conduct these con calls. Really makes things so transparent, sir. I really respect and compliment you on this particular effort which you put in, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Thank you for the compliment.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vineet Malu from Birla Sun Life. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So just wanted to know what has been the progress for us on receivable side at the end of June and beyond June also till date. If you can just talk about that, sir.
I had mentioned this in the opening remark, Malu, but then coming back to it, at the end of March this year, 31st March, it was about 19,500 crore rupees, which reduced to 18,500 crore rupees by June end, and my Director of Finance tells me as of July end, it came down to 17,100 crore rupees. So there has been a reduction of about 2,400 crore rupees in last 4 months.
Sure, sir. Thanks, sir. Sorry, I think I missed it earlier. And my next question is, sir, what is the total Kpex we've incurred so far in the year, and are we on track for our annual target?
As I mentioned earlier also, the target is about 17,000 crore rupees, but that includes our investment in HURL and TFL. And HURL and TFL, I expect that this year about 1,000 crore rupees equity will be put, and correspondingly about 2,000 crore rupees loan they will be taking. So the 3,000 crore rupees is on HURL and TFL account, and another 1,500 crore rupees or 1,000 crore rupees, I don't remember exactly, is for railway lines that have been constructed in Eastern Railway. In that also, my equity is substantial, that is 64%, but then out of total investment, only 20 or 30% is equity and 70% is debt. So to that extent, if you are looking from the cash point of view, this fact should be taken into account. And rest of the thing is for our improving our coal production.
Okay. Yeah, that clarifies that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it from my side.
The next question is from the line of Rahul Jain from Systematics. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, sir. Thank you for taking my question. Sir, we have started this exercise of import substitution, sometime last year, if I'm not wrong. So how far have we succeeded on that front, and what is your expectation for this year? And secondly, sir, I want to know, so what is the pipeline of thermal projects coming, in the country? And so how do you see the landscape evolving in next 2-3 years? Yeah, thanks.
I couldn't get your second question.
No, this is more broad-based in terms of, this, carbon emissions creating a problem, globally. So how are we geared up to, address that issue?
Okay. Coming to the first question, I think about 70 million ton was the thing that we supplied instead of import last year. And this year again, we will make all the efforts to replace the import as far as possible. But our limitation is that there is a lot of import, which is the type of coal we don't have, like coking coal, high-grade coal, and coal for coastal power plants, etc. So that is something which is not replaceable. But rest of the coal, whatever is replaceable, we will try our best to replace that. Coming to the second part of the question, which is related to decreasing the carbon emission, we are taking all the steps possible. As I had mentioned in earlier interactions as well, that first mile connectivity, the projects related to first mile connectivity and railway lines are a big step in reducing the carbon footprint. Very soon you will see a NIRI report put on our website that will indicate that a lot of carbon, I don't want to give the numbers exactly, but by constructing all these 35 FMC projects, a lot reduction will take place in carbon emission, and that there will be a substantial reduction. Secondly, we are increasing the afforestation drive. Last year we did tree plantation on about 800 hectares of the land and did about 20 lakh plants. This year we are planning that we should do on more than 1,300 hectares of the land, and perhaps more than 30 million plants will be saplings will be planted. Besides, this is over and above the statutory requirement of afforestation that we are required to do when we assess any forest area. And whatever we have accumulated over the years is more than 4,000. I don't remember those numbers. 4,000 hectares of land. More than 4,000 hectares of the land we have planted. On this we have trees are planted, and in certain areas, actually, the area after our CIL entered, it has become greener. So all these efforts, we are doing some experiments on how to replace diesel with LNG, and we have signed an MOU with GAIL recently so that they will help us in introducing LNG. If that happens, then further reduction in high capacity equipment can be achieved. We are trying to get into the solar power. As I mentioned earlier, that about 250 megawatt we have identified, which will be created just to meet our requirements, which will supply to the subsidiaries directly. And besides, we are trying to enter in this field by taking up solar power projects in other areas, so that in next 3 years, CIL can become an energy neutral company.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That was very helpful. Sir, also on how do you envisage the situation evolving, say, in 5 years' time? Do we see a lower production and offtake given your projection that you would have done? Or do you think that, thermal demand will still continue to grow at more than 5%? Or what are your thoughts on that, sir?
It will be difficult for me to indicate any number, but my understanding is that for next 1 or 1.5 decades, the coal production requirement of the country will further increase. There is no way it can decrease. Our average energy consumption is, we take in another way, that average carbon emission per capita in India is half of the world average and perhaps 1/8 of the American average. If we have to improve the standards of the living, then this energy consumption in the country will increase. There is no way that it can decrease. So next 10 to 15 years, I don't think the coal demand will reduce. Maybe the share of the coal in power generation will decrease, but in absolute terms, it will definitely increase. And the production requirement will be at least 5 to 6% increase every year.
Right. And so largely you think it will be coming from higher PLF because not too much of thermal capacity will be added. Is the right assessment, sir?
That's right. Last year it was only 58%. This year in certain months it rose to 62%. So it is likely to increase. This year it will be, you will see that PLF will be 60 plus.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vishal Chandak from DAM Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. So just a couple of questions from my side. The first question was with respect to simplification of the e-auction process. If I remember last time you mentioned that there are a number of multiple e-auctions that you run, and that creates a lot of anomalies in the system as in who puts in how much quantity in which auction and thereabouts. So price discovery also at times is not very realistic and demand assessment is also not very clear. So any thoughts on how soon can we move on to one company, one auction kind of a phenomena?
Vishal, we are trying very hard for this, but we need government permission for this. And as you know that it will affect certain interests, so those interest groups are trying to resist, but we are working on that. It will be difficult for me to indicate the timeline, but let's see. We are working very hard on this and it should happen.
Well, in my view, that would unlock significant amount of value for Coal India. Because if you look at today, any other company in the commodity space, they have reported lifetime high EBITDA, while the cost structure is probably remaining flattish or marginally up. So it's high time we have our share of the pie.
You are right completely, but then other commodity and coal is slightly different because almost everything depends on coal. So rampant increase in price of coal perhaps will not be advisable for the country's economy. But then I completely agree that there should be some increase and all these mechanisms should be transparent and it should be such that real price discovery takes place. And we are working very hard on all these things.
That's great to hear, sir. So my second question was with respect to washeries. I remember at the time of our IPO, we had made certain commitments on setting up washeries and, proceed towards improved quality of coal. So in recent times, what are the actions that we have taken on washeries? If you could just elaborate on that.
It was found that washeries coal becomes slightly expensive and no power plant is willing to take washed coal. Despite that fact, if you transport over a certain distance, the cost of transportation of the ash content makes the coal cheaper. But none of these power plants was giving any commitment on this behalf. And hence, in the last year, the government that made it compulsory not to transport coal beyond certain ash content, that has those notification has been modified. And hence, in today's situation, even if I install washery, I don't know how much demand I would get. I have been requesting power plants to indicate their demand to give some commitment, but in the last many years they have not given. So ultimately, washeries for non-coking coal are unlike, not many washeries in non-coking coal field are likely to.
Right, sir. And sir, my last question was with respect to our Kpex for reaching at 1 billion tons. if I remember, we had stated that we need about 65,000 crores of Kpex to reach a billion ton, and we were planning to hit that number by about FY24. I understand we would be delayed because of the COVID. So where are we in terms of reaching a billion ton and in terms of capacity to produce, and how much we have spent on that so far? That would be also my question.
After we spent about 10 to 12,000 crore rupees just on our increasing our capacity. This year again, as I had explained earlier, was 10 to about 13,000 crore rupees. If we knock off all other expenditure, 13 to 14,000 crore rupees with Kpex will be doing on this. And next year again, we are likely to do Kpex of 15,000 crore rupees on these items. But what you are saying that 65,000 crore rupees is required to increase the 1 billion ton production, perhaps there is some mismatch in these numbers, because when we say that so many projects are to be opened for reaching this 1 billion ton target, and for those projects 65,000 crore or 70,000 crore rupees will be required, it doesn't mean that for 1 billion ton this much is required. Because that 65,000 and 75,000 is the total requirement of those projects over next 20-25 years. So that much capacity will be created, and that capacity needs to be sustained over many years, coming years. So that is something. So it is not that we require to spend 65,000 crore rupees in next 2 to 3 years to achieve these targets.
Got it, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. As there are no further questions in queue, I now hand the conference over to Mr. Vishal Chandak for closing comments.
Yeah, thank you very much for participating in today's call. I hope we have had a very good session, and I hand over the floor to sir for your closing comments.
Thank you very much, Vishal, for organizing this, and thank you, participants, for asking very good questions today. And I must appreciate today that the repetition of the questions were not there, so we could close this well within time. Thank you very much, Vishal, for organizing this.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of DAM Capital Advisors Limited, that concludes this conference call for today. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.